Soraida, welcome to the podcast.
I'm happy to be here in your podcast.
It's a pleasure to speak with you. And I'd love to start us off with you telling us about the movement of Verdadism.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about what in 1981, I graduated from college with an fine art degree. And what I did was I started working in corporate America. And what I did is I actually started my own art and design studio in 1986. So this was a full service design studio. So what I found when I went out there in corporate America, I found that there was a lot of discrimination and they didn't want people, they didn't really accept people like me. And it was harder for a woman to get in there because we're talking in the 80s. So in 92, that's when I decided to speak out and create Verdadism. And I would like to start off by actually explaining the word Verdadism because a lot of people don't know that the word Verdadism is made of Spanish word for truth, Verdad means truth in Spanish, and ism, the suffix for theory for English. And I combined these two words to actually describe my art. Now, in brief, it means to empower yourself with your own truth and go for it. Like I said, I created it in 1992 because I felt that I wasn't being heard. And I saw that there was a lot of racism, sexism, stereotyping, and I created it to promote social change. I also wanted to promote analytical thinking because during that time, we kind of went into like a phase that most people would just allow people to think for themselves. And they went in, it's the 80s, and you have like, for example, you have like Madonna singing The Material Girl, and most people were just thinking mostly about themselves and they were sleeping about what was happening in society. So what I did with this movement, I actually did an exhibition, and I called the media, and I did actually got covered by the newspapers and got covered by TV and magazines, and I saw that people were ready for the truth movement that it is right now. But a lot of people were wanted to hear uh, about this because right now there is a lot of people speaking out. But before, especially somebody like myself, a Latina, was not really talking about these issues. But anyway, I just wanted to like talk to you about what is Verdadism as an art form, and a lot of people ask me that. And as an art form, is there are paintings juxtaposed with written social commentaries. By that, I mean that each painting gets like a commentary along the side of the painting. There are three parts and there are three aspects of Verdadism: the painting part, the commentary, and then the philosophy. Now, I'm going to break it down a little bit just to give you, your viewers a little bit of an idea of what it is. And it's kind of brief because it's more involved, but the painting style is a hard edge form, abstraction. By hard edges, I mean that they don't have a quality, they have a flat plane, they don't have a painterly quality to it. And I use a lot of design because I'm also a designer. So I balance colors and I balance flat planes. I use like a lot of bold colors. I use like two planes to every painting. A lot of people have asked me, they thought it would look like cubism. But it is not, because cubism is basically you have like three different planes. I only use like two planes. So it's different if you know most of your viewers that have a trained eye, they will notice a difference. Now bold colors, I used it in the beginning because they make a statement. And most of my paintings, like if you walk by, is so bold that you would just kind of like want to know what is this, and I did that on purpose. As a style, I use like distinctive style. I elongate arms. I use a lot of symbolism. You can see it in little areas if you look into through the paintings. And I convey feelings and through the composition of the painting. The way I place things, like is hard to do. Like create feelings with a linear line, but you can do it, and I use a lot of design with that. Now the subject matters and motif is my life experiences. Um, Now the commentary is the second part, which I want to explain about that too. Uh, like I said, is to promote social change. I use bold statement, and in terms when you do a bold statement, it becomes activism. I use long titles. Now, by that is that if you were passing by one of my paintings and you were to read the commentary, the title would tell you everything because I do that, purposely. I do that for if you don't want to read the whole text. Now, I also the speaking style of the painting is basically like if you were thinking out loud, because what I'm doing is putting it like I'm recording a snapshot of my life experience at the moment. So when I write the commentary, I try to write it where it flows, like if somebody is just speaking, it's not like a text. And also too, I use like uh feelings. I want to convey feelings through that. If I actually like edit it, it will probably be more like a not, it will come out stiff. So I do that. Now I I want to give you an example of it because it probably gets be better if I give you an example of one of the titles. Please stop calling us minorities. We all know that's an unfair label with negative connotations. Now, this was in 1994. We're still labeling, and in America, we label everything. And when we label something, and I have a painting that is called "Stop Labeling is Social Lynching," which it is because when you label something, you have a preconceived idea of what you're gonna go through. So I don't think people should be labeled, but it works out like that. What prejudice looks like is a painting that I did, and it's a large painting in 1993, which I brought out to the school system to mainly like kids of at the age like 6, 7, just to open up a dialogue on racism in a friendly way. And if you see the painting, and people are welcome to go to my website, and I have them up there, the old paintings. It's a block, it's a figurative blockhead with arms that is just really just like strangling yourself when you're prejudiced. So kids kids get it right away when it's then, oh, I know what you're talking about, because it's very visual. It's a very visual language. Woman on a String, 1992. This painting, I have a woman just hanging from a string, and it's about a male society, and it's happening right now. It was 1992 and was really to represent what was happening then at that moment. But 30 years later, we're still having the same things that are, it's never changed. It's gotten even worse. Now, Puerto Rican stereotype, the way you see me without looking at me. I do a lot of paintings about, being stereotyped, because we do stereotype a lot of people in this country. And this painting is a large painting, and it's satirical. It's like a Carmen Miranda looking lady, and people get it when, when you have a preconceived idea of somebody and you stereotype them. It's not really sophisticated to do that. Interracial family, the way society sees it, it's a 1992 painting about my my mother was is a Puerto Rican of she's more Caucasian, of Spanish ancestry, and then my stepfather, was she married when I was a teenager. He's more of African ancestry. He's Puerto Rican, but he's Black Puerto Rican. And when I lived in the area in South Jersey where at that time in the 70s when they saw my parents and me walk into a restaurant, they would feel like they had I mean, I felt that they got a like an eerie feeling of seeing us. So if you see the painting, it's an abstract painting. You got the woman has a round face, and then the man has is actually a square. And then the middle figure that what I felt was just like a round face and a square getting together. That's and it's if the visual part of it, you can see exactly what I meant by that. Now, the Tarot Demasking Oneself is 1995, and I feel that most people would rather die than be themselves and show who they really are. And in order to really do Verdadism, you have to really dig into yourself and into your subconscious mind and let your true self come out. It's about truth. So if you're gonna speak truth, you have to be truthful to yourself. So that's what the Verdadism philosophy is. I have like this. I talk about women's issues too, and the uh, uh, the title of this one is called "Women Working Together" in 1994. I feel that in order for women to progress, we need to work together and we need to really help each other out because what I see is a lot of women say, "Oh yes, we're gonna be a part of a movement," but when they don't really promote other women, they don't really, I'm saying a lot do it. I mean, a lot don't do it. A lot, we need to do more of it. And that's the only way we're going to make any kind of change in this society, especially with the women's, movement. Now, the last part, which is the philosophy, the third part. Now, the philosophy means to empower yourself with your own truth and go for it. I explained that a little bit about that. And the second thing is to live for the moment and respect for others. Respect for others. I feel that we went into an era where we lost respect for people that look differently, and especially like the last I think it was the last 6 years where where so I think if you don't have respect for people, I'm not, that's not a sustainable society. So giving back to society is very important to keep a sustainable society. You have to give back and get involved, because if you don't get involved, you're not going to make any change. And keep an open mind. I mean, most people don't really uh, open up their minds. Like, if anybody's hearing this podcast, they'll probably say, "Who is this lady speaking about what? The diasm? What is that?" So they're immediately probably going to close up and say, you know. But that, I think, in order for for anybody to really gain some kind of knowledge and create and do something important in life, you really have to keep an open mind. And the last part is to connect with your spiritual side. And by that, I don't mean in a religious way. I mean more, psychologically, more spiritual, in the sense of really getting to know who you are as an individual, and in your subconscious mind, putting your subconscious mind into use. I think that creativity, a lot of times I let my subconscious mind go, just start digging into it when I paint. I just like don't really analyze it. I just let it just flow, and you can get a lot from that. So that's what Vedism is, and it's kind of is brief. I'm writing a book about it, another book about Verdadism, and it will explain a little bit more than what I talked about.
Thank you for that. So how do you actually incorporate the commentary into your work? I'm looking at the artwork behind you. Do you normally, is there a comment beside it on a plaque that people can read as they go around the gallery?
Yes, exactly. So that's what Vedism is juxtaposed with the commentary. So if you want to do a Vedism painting, you have to have a commentary. So, but the way I do it is I may look at an issue that I think that I want to talk about, and I'll jot down and write down, like I said, I'll write down what's bothering me about it, and also it has to have a message. All of them have a message. At the end, there's a message, and then I paint and I incorporate both of them. And when I exhibit it, I always put the commentary. I mean, I get a lot of people that just use the painting and it's not complete without the commentaries. So that's how I incorporate it. Sometimes I might paint something or just jot down a painting because I have something that I want to paint about, and then I do the commentary. So I don't do like a structure, either one or the other.
I understand what you mean. A lot of my paintings, all of them actually, have some underlying meaning to me that's much deeper than what's being portrayed on the canvas. And I've spoken to actually marketers on the show who recommend doing what you're doing by getting involved in the message behind each piece, because people want to know, in most cases, what motivated you. Maybe not the exact literal description of what the painting is about. You want to leave that room for them to enter into the painting with you.
Exactly.
But to go ahead, some people will say, well, don't tell anyone what it's about because it's art. But I've always been pulled to talk about what motivated me with each painting. And so I love that deeper level that your paintings have.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, when I went to college in the 70s, 80s, my professor used to say, your art should speak for itself. That was old school.
Yeah.
It should speak for itself. But I actually just broke all the rules. And I think that people gravitated towards my art because when I did it, I actually in like 94, I put my website up and I put my paintings up there. And educators like throughout the United States and even in the world, they will just link certain paintings, and they will teach. They were teaching tolerance with my paintings because they had a statement. So they will review it with the class, and they will actually ask the class, the students, what they thought about it. So it was very friendly. It's very easy to know and to know what's happening. And most people complain about the fact that when they see a piece of work that's abstract, they wonder, what is this? And they like immediately they just like close up, because if they can't understand it, they're like, oh, what is that? So if you got like text along with it and it matches, I mean, and it actually, you can see what's going on and what you're talking about, it grabs the viewer more and it gives you, a sense of connection. And that's what I want, to connect with the viewer, and they start thinking about it.
Yes. Well, I think it's very successful. And I've noticed that there is that design element, but then there's the message underlying, even if, again, I favor what you do, which is explaining the motivation and what this is really trying to convey. But they're also beautifully designed. I love your compositions.
Oh, thank you.
And you can tell there's a strong tribal element to them as well. There's kind of Aborigine elements There's West African elements. I love
Yeah,
them.
I use my earlier paintings I did. Now they're a little bit, they have changed a lot, but yes, yes. It's, I draw, I mean, I study a lot of artists, so I could see, what you're talking about. Yeah. But a lot of it, like, is like the Western sculptures with the
Yep,
elongated arms and stuff like that. I got influenced by that because of the fact that
I can
it's
tell.
really it's super sophisticated because
Yes.
in order to abstract anything, most people would think, oh, that's abstraction, but to do it right, you have to balance things. So you really have to be able to have a knowledge of design. And I think that like Western African art, most of the people in the art world kind of like not looked at it correctly, but I think it's very sophisticated, very good to do
Yeah,
that.
I love it. Yeah, I can see it clearly in there. So how did you begin, and how do you continue to use your paintings to educate and teach diversity and tolerance, in addition to the gallery showings and people coming to you organically on your website, educators? Do you promote yourself out? Do you market yourself that way? Do you license your work for that purpose?
Yes. What I do is I do a lot of Zoom presentations, and I also do before the pandemic, I actually went into colleges and universities and corporate America. I take out my paintings there, and I do art talks. Mostly, I do it that way, and also too, like what you just mentioned, a lot of the paintings have been used for covers of textbooks, and they embody exactly the same message. So I influence writers to write about the message of labeling, the different messages of social issues, and add it into their textbooks. So that's did I answer your question? Or
I
did I
think
go
so.
off a little bit?
Well, no, you did answer. I guess I'm wondering, how did you make those connections?
What connections are, okay, the business part of it. Okay. The first thing I did was, okay, I had an art and design studio, so I knew how to communicate, and also to the web was like the first version of the web was just coming out, and there were people all over the place, looking into the web. So when I put my site up, and it was early 1994, which is a long time ago, um, I got connections from like artists from all over the world. I got people, professors asking me questions, and that's how I made my connections. So I through emails, and people see you and you make yourself visible through. Also, I went on television and newspapers and all that. So most of the people, I mean, most of my connections were from people that saw me and said, "This is what I've been looking for. This is exactly what I want. And could you come and talk about it, or can we use your painting for this, or we would love to use this as a cover." So it was really like I wasn't really aggressively, just knocking on doors. Could you use, would you like this? Even though I did some of that too, but bringing it out to the public. I mean, you bring it out to your public, you get a connections. I mean, but it would be harder now because of there's so much out there. But as I mean, when I was on the web, it was only a few people, it was a few artists there. So, and everybody wanted to, especially academia, they wanted to go in there and look. So academia mostly grabbed onto me, and they wanted to highlight my paintings and use it. So that's how I made my connections. Most of
That's
my
wonderful. And is that how you made the television connections?
Now, the television connection, I actually had a representative that actually sent some information on me, and they wanted to highlight me for that. So yeah, it's a combination of everything. I mean, as far as making connections, I mean, that's one of I advise people, the artists, that if when you start painting, like most artists are shy. I mean, I'm a shy person, you know, and when they paint and then they just leave it, and and they don't show it, and they like waiting for somebody to discover them. And I'm like saying, no, you can't do that. You actually, if you can't wait, you have to go out there and show people what you're doing. I did a combination also. I went around and I showed my work to galleries. I also did that too. But the galleries were like a little bit, the commercial galleries, they were a little bit more closed-minded, because I mean, I even got some galleries that told me, I like your paintings, I like the design of it and all that, but can you drop the commentaries? Because I don't think anybody wants to know about racism or sexism, and that's
Really?
not gonna, yeah, and that's not gonna sell paintings. I think I could sell it if you let that go. And so, but I said, no, this is what Verdadism is. And what I did is I just went towards work academia, and as it became more fashionable to talk about these issues, I even got like people in corporate America where they saying, could you come and do an exhibition and talk? And I've done that, and so it's a combination of everything.
That's wonderful. Yeah, because right now, especially with diversity and inclusion and equity, these are all talking points, especially in corporate America and
Oh, yes.
especially in academia.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
can others then, it sounds like what you were saying about if you want to paint in Verdadism, you would include a commentary. So you basically welcome others to join the same movement and do the same thing to join you, like someone like back in the past where people would join the Impressionists or the
Yeah, I
Surrealists.
was thinking that. Yeah. Well, it's kind of individual in the way it is. The way to join Verdadism is really just do a painting, and then add a commentary, and then call it Verdadism, and make sure it has a message, and then take it out there. Take it out there, show it to people, and talk about it, and that will be Verdadism. It's not like a movement in the sense of the old-fashioned way where people got together and started talking about it like that. When I started doing it, I never thought of it as a movement. I thought of it as just being myself, and having my voice heard, and trying to change the way people thought of people like me, and women and all that. And so, but in a way it became a movement, because when I put it out on the web, there were people, writers were grabbing on it, educators were grabbing to it. It were inspired a lot of people of different backgrounds to speak truth, which is really big now. Everybody's speaking truth now. You turn on the TV, everybody's telling you how it is. Even doctors, lawyers, and you would never think that way before, especially a doctor that would give you the truth about medicine and everything like that. So
That's true. I think that it's also important to look at it in terms of really white American artists who might want to join in this and have a voice and speak up about these issues, because I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think a lot of white people these days are kind of afraid to step up and have a statement about all of these issues, because they feel like they don't know how they're going to be received, if they're going to be received in a way that is negative, that they shouldn't have a platform at this time. I think it's an awkward place for people who are kind of adjusting to the concepts of the white privilege issue, all of it, where they just think, well, I definitely don't want to continue any of the practices in the past that would be considered promoting the institutionalization of any racist practices or discrimination of any kind, but they really are afraid to speak up. They're afraid they're going to screw it up and say
Yeah.
something that is going to make it seem worse or just seem like they're not doing it right.
I think you're right. The younger people are more likely to speak up. And I was, since I started going into school system early on in life, because if you put that in their mind that you could speak up, that you, they're more likely to do that. But yeah, it's like the painting the terror of demasking oneself. You unmask yourself, you got, people gonna judge you. And then this is your true self and you're showing your true self. So that's exactly. And in corporate America, I mean, you can't really speak up because you may lose your job. But you can do other ways of speaking up is by not really just going and actually speaking, but you can actually just like instead, if you're running a business, you can hire more women, you can hire more people, the brown and black people. And that right there is better than just speaking, it's doing. Because
Right.
if you see like in the last few years, all this protests and people talking about how this is not right and this and this and that, and then they go home and they don't even mingle with African American people, and like, okay, I'm really for equality and everything, and then they go to work and they just start working like nothing happened, and they don't make any change in their work environment. They just keep going and say, oh, I was in that in that protest. I really believe in that, but you're not really practicing it. And that's where the actual you can do it that way, speaking out that way, an underlying speaking out. It's more than speaking out, really, because words are just words, unless you put actions behind it.
Yes. And I think that's where there's a lot of, I don't want to say confusion, but maybe frustration I think sometimes in the corporate world, where maybe an employee, this is something very important to them, but they don't have the opportunity in their venue to really make those decisions and make changes that would be able to put progress in motion. And so they're kind of sitting with whatever the structure has been established for that department or that company.
Yeah.
And they feel like they're looking like they're not doing anything. So they can go out on their own, really, I think, and as you said, find ways to promote others and to be inclusive.
Exactly. I mean, hire more women, and because I said that before about Verdadism. A lot of women, when I did that painting, a lot of women said, "Well, that's not true anymore. I think women are not, like that anymore." But they are. Because I
Really?
got most of my obstacles were put upon me because of women, But
Yep.
yeah, so you have to be truthful to yourself. I mean, I make an effort that, I make an effort to be inclusive, and make sure that I look at everything, and you have to make an effort, really.
You do.
Mm.
And you have to, I think, set a lot of boundaries, especially as a woman, to make the time and have people respect that this is something you're serious about.
Exactly. Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
so
That takes a lot of courage to do that.
it
It
does,
does.
as a mom and somebody who's working, and if you're doing your art as well, or if your art is part of your job, no matter how you put it together, I find that you've got to really be adamant without necessarily pushing people away, but making that space, because you even had mentioned that your best ideas come when you are having your quiet time. You need to
Exactly.
have that germination time of getting the ideas and making space for yourself so that the ideas are out there, as opposed to always trying to produce without stopping to kind of formulate what your art's about.
Yeah, it's like a form of meditation where
Yes.
And then you have to really go deep inside of you and really, kind of peel the layers of your preconceived ideas and say, really thinking it's very hard. It's not so easy. Most people don't want to think. They'd rather have people think for them and just, you know, it's funny you say that because most of all of my big paintings from '92, the eyes are closed because I felt that the society just started. They were just like an automatic drive and with their eyes closed and not really seeing anything and not really, being awakened like it is now.
I think you're right. And I think that you mentioned meditation, and my listeners know I'm very big on meditation. And part of that is because, especially now, there's so much noise all around us.
Oh yeah, more
And for
so
us,
than any time. Yeah.
you see somebody waiting in line somewhere and they're on their phone. And to even stop and be silent and be comfortable with that, I think takes practice these days. The good
Yeah.
news is it's addictive. I find that the more I meditate, the longer I want to do it. If I say, well, I'll just go, like I like to lay down when I meditate if I have time and I'm at home, of course. But
I do that too.
if I'm in silence and I'm meditating, the next thing you know, I'm thinking, I just want to stay here just 5 more minutes. And I will,
Yeah.
it's self-perpetuating because it can be very addicting to really submerge yourself into that silence.
Yeah. And you learn to like, I mean, a lot of people can't do that because they haven't really dug up into what they're about because you have to really like yourself. I mean, I like being me and I mean, my best company is myself. So if I mean, it sounds weird, but if you can't be by yourself, you're not going to sit down and think and really just meditate because meditation gives you more than just it just regulates your whole system, and when you do that, I mean, a lot of times when I meditate, I come out with the best ideas, like, oh, I got a good idea. And it's not supposed to be that way, but and it's a creative thing. It's kind of creative, you let your mind just keep going with ideas. So
That's right. Well, and you were saying about having something to say. And I think that liking yourself is also essential to having the courage then, once you come with these ideas, to bring them forth and actually tell people, this is what I think and this is what I stand for.
that's the foundation of it all.
Yeah. If you
Because
don't
if
have
you
any
don't like
confidence,
yourself, yeah, if you don't like yourself, you're gonna easily just fall down. You're not gonna, it's not a good thing. It's a good foundation of anything really. It's not only about art. It's about yourself as a mom, as a sister, as a brother, whatever. You always have to have a foundation and a good sense of self. A good
yes.
sense of
And not only to have the courage to say what you are about, but to know what you're about, to know what you would
yeah.
want to say if you had that microphone or that opportunity.
That's where the work comes in, knowing yourself.
That's right.
So that's the hardest person to really get to know is yourself. Because you really have to be honest. And in order to be honest, you're gonna have to like say, okay, I'm gonna drop that. And it takes a lot of work to do that. And it takes a lot of silence and by yourself. And
Yes.
yeah, so liking yourself is the most important thing, really.
So you have a very individual style. We've talked about all of the different art influences, cultural influences that factor into your artistic style. How did you actually come to painting the way that you do?
Well, I when I went to college, I took life drawing, and it was 1970s and 80s. It was pretty like academic, As I don't know if they do that now, but I had to do like life drawing, landscapes, and the regular linear drawing and all that. But I was drawn towards more of like I specialize in design, and I like the idea of incorporating design. a lot of design in it, and just leaving the more of the, if you're dealing with something that's representational and realistic, you get caught up in whether you're doing it right. Is that perspective, I did it a lot. So you in Vedism, I don't want to go in that part of my brain. I want to go into the part that says, oh, I never thought that about myself. And I'm putting this color here, and it brought up some feelings that I can deal with and actually put it out in public, and somebody else may feel the same way. And that's the way, and I like just doing flat planes and different colors.
So when you start your paintings, do you have a sketch? And I'm guessing if you do, perhaps they're more basic in that, do you add a lot of the elements as you go? It sounds like it's kind of an intuitive process once you get the basic figures laid in.
Yeah. I know you're a painter because you said that. Uh,
I'm
a lot of
Italian
times,
because I'm talking like this.
yeah. But anyway, yeah, you're correct. What I do is I'll draw something, and then at the end it might not even look exactly what I drew.
Yeah.
Because intentionally, like when I was taking art in college, and I'm still talking, I don't know if it's still old school, but when my teacher used to tell me, my professor would say, Soraida, okay, the painting's there, now step back and look at it. What do you think? So I had to, like, for a long time, I always step back and I look. I still do it now, 'cause for composition and design, whether it's falling or whatever. So, but I not with my Verdadism painting, sometimes I go so close to the canvas that I'm not even looking at that, and I'll just grab the brush and just go, without even looking at it, I said, I feel like there's something new there. Then later on, I look at it and I'd say, wow, that works. So yeah, yeah, that's exactly the way I do it. I try to be, and if I really plan it, it becomes more kind of rigid for me. I was like a product illustrator for a while when I got out of college, and it was like technical illustration, and you everything is all planned out with proportion and everything. So I wanted to break away from that, and I like that kind of art too, but I'm drawn towards more of expressing more of my feelings, and I find that that's the best way for me to do it is the art style that I did, the Verdadism art style by just simplifying things and putting colors
Well,
together.
and ironically, they're not simple by doing that. They're very complex. There's a lot of
Yeah.
layers.
Yeah, most people think of a line as being simple, but a line you can convey all kinds. Like if you do a line, the squiggly line, that shows feeling. A straight line, that's another feeling. So you're adding all these different lines that convey an idea. And when I first did it, I said, well, they kind of look, they're not representational art, so they're not realistic. This is not gonna, people are not gonna feel offended or anything. But I was so surprised that people would look at it and get such a strong reaction. And like, what? It's just the lines. They're just lines. It's not real people. Like body parts. Like, oh, that represents breasts. It's like a strong reaction to it. And I thought that I wouldn't get that, but I did. I got a lot of that.
Now, where did you get that reaction? Where was the reception of that?
Yeah, I way back when in 92, I had a, a design studio in a corporate area, right? And when people, like some of the people that were in corporate that would come into my office, they're like, even like the mailman for a long time, he would look at I would have a painting there, like Puerto Rican stereotype, which is right there, right behind me.
Yeah, I love that one. Love, love, love.
And it is very large, and I had it like in the front, and he would walk in and say, and then one day I said, oh, it's satirical. And he said, oh, I was so embarrassed to look at that. So, you embarrassed? That's, it is kind of funny, but at least I got a reaction, and art should have some kind of reaction, or people should get a reaction from that.
I agree. So do you believe that participating in social change as a realist painter can achieve the same effect as if you're looking to jump into Verdadism? It sounds like it's more of the philosophy as opposed to the style.
Well, it's also too, it's like, you're dealing with your subconscious mind. Because a lot of the issues that I'm kind of working on myself. And when you're dealing with a Verdadism painting, or when you're doing a painting like that, you're asking questions uh, about yourself. So I think that really abstract paintings is the best way to kind of dig into your subconscious mind, because like I said, like a lot of times I would just put a line there. Why am I doing this? I don't know. It's just and then look at it and say, yeah, I know why I put the line there, because of this and that. So I think if you incorporating realistic paintings, it's gonna lose out on that, on the fact that you will, because like I said, you're I mean, myself, when I do, like, occasionally I've done like realistic portraits, I get involved more in the technical part of it, and like, okay, these eyes, oh, that don't look, I didn't get the right look or whatever. So I don't think that it's a good idea. I think mostly, I believe that you should have your individual style in it, but it's good to abstract painting is more of a, for me, I find it is more therapeutic and more, it's easier to get to your feelings than if you got another thing involved, where if you're doing a painting of a building, and it happens to have a sunlight a certain way, and you're putting it together, that's like, it's stopping what you're trying to do. That's what my feeling. I mean, that's what I find.
All right. Well, before I ask you our last question, I want to thank you for coming on the show and being so gracious with your time and telling us about your incredible paintings. I'm going to be putting them on the website in your show notes so that people can see your work, and there'll be a link to your website and how to contact you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so very much. And I would love it if you could wrap us up with your best advice for artists who want to gain recognition for their artwork, whether or not they want to promote social change, but especially if they want to promote social change, how artists can really get out there and get noticed.
Well, I think that the first thing, which is pretty basic, is to have your own art style, to have your own visual voice. Make your style where if somebody saw your painting, they don't even have to look at a name and say, "Oh, that's so and so," or you know how you see like a painter from the past, and that is, I don't even have to know that is either Picasso or whatever, because they have their own visual style. Even though he did different styles, he kept a distinctive style. It's almost like your face, you're stepping up and that's you. The second part, I think, is which I have a liberal arts education, and I think through education, I think through a liberal arts, you learn about history, you learn about science, philosophy, math. I remember taking a little bit of business courses, So if you want to be, a professional painter, I found for myself that really helped me a lot. I think that education, on a liberal arts education, really it will help a lot of people. I think it helps you as an artist become better, and also it's a good foundation, because I'm pretty older now, and every day I want to learn something new, because when I learn something new, it triggers something else, which triggers another painting of mine, and it keeps my creativity going. And The last thing was, and we covered it, was don't wait for somebody to discover you. Because if you paint and just, and I'm guilty of doing that myself, a lot of times I slack off and not, will say something, or I see an exhibition, I say, oh, I should have known that, but they didn't know about me because I didn't promote myself enough to do that. But I think that that would be the most important thing, is to go and get it out there. And I really want to thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate it.